and welcome to the Gotham Outsiders, our Batman book club. I am your host, Bat Obsessive Chris, currently pulling up on my new boathouse. And with me is my co-host, TJ.
Hello, everyone. Waking up from a nap. I am your Chris proclaimed Batman Talon.
Yeah. Are you also on my houseboat in our little marina?
Yeah, I was just taking a little nap on your little couch.
Little couch
by
in
the
my
window.
houseboat.
Yeah, getting a little seasick. But holding back my hair at the toilet.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure Chris has a better.
I am. Yeah, I'm holding back your hair currently. Luckily, it's short. But we have another guest in this little houseboat we call a podcast. We have a returning one of our favorite Batcademics, Lauren O'Connor.
Yay. Hi. I'm so excited to be here in the houseboat. It kind of looks like a murder shed, but
it does look like a murder shed. But
happy to be here.
How very Tim is it to look like a murder shed?
You can hold my hair as well. Thank you.
Oh,
wow.
nobody wants
You can
this.
hold my hand.
Okay. I was gonna say I get the gross job. Oh my god. So today we will be talking about Tim Drake Robin 1 through 7, 8-ish.
Yeah. We haven't done that.
Everyone's been waiting for us to do this, right? Like it's our
feel like they
thing, and
have.
we have put it off, which I feel like says a lot. But
Feeling
also
the pressure.
yeah, right. Everyone's expecting us to make Tim Drake episodes, so it's time.
Yeah. And we did our Drake Watch series for a while. That was
Damn it.
fun. It was a lot of work keeping
Yeah.
up on it. So like
Yeah.
not month to month, but like every big thing, it was like, all right, we're gonna do that. So we decided to wait till this series was at a point where it made sense to cover it with someone who would be really great. And of course, Lauren was the first person we thought of for that.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Y'all are so kind to me.
Oh, please, you're amazing.
We're just glad you're here.
Thanks.
Yeah. Luckily, this is our era of Tim Drake, so we had to kind of retire the Drake Watch because there was too much to watch.
Yeah.
Like, oh, actually, he's around all the time now. Never mind.
Right.
It was becoming 24-hour surveillance.
Yeah. It's breaking news. Drake
We
Watch
went
every
from
day.
hand holding in a webcomic to hold on. Every month. Ooh.
Oh my god, you're so right.
But I don't know though. This first few months were a little dry. We're really at issue 7. Month
issue
7
is where
was
we're
where
at.
we really
But we'll
we
get
got
to
fed.
it. First, we have a game inspired by issue 7. Yeah,
Ooh.
believe it or not. So we'll get into all of our feelings of that, but issue 7 was basically a rom-com. Are you two, either one of you, fans of the rom-com genre?
Yes. I do enjoy rom-coms, and I especially enjoy queer rom-coms.
Yay!
I dabble. Like I like a good rom-com, but I don't go out of my way often to watch one, I guess. But I like the classics, the millennial classics, and whenever there's a new queer one that comes out, it's a big deal. I'm like, all right, let me give that a try.
Okay.
So I know the tropes.
This game might be rough for you. We'll find out.
I like red, white, and royal blue. That's my answer.
Amazing. Okay. No, if you know the tropes, then you're gonna be fine. Because we're playing a game based on rom-com tropes. I'm going to throw a trope out there, and the two of you have to decide how Tim and Bernard would interpret this trope.
Ooh.
Oh, like how they would play it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the first one, starting as a classic, is the only one bed.
That is a classic.
How they would react to this.
Yes.
Well, I mean, they've only barely touched at this point.
I know, so this is going to be serious for them.
I think Tim might flee the scene out the window.
Tim's like, I gotta go patrol.
Yeah. I think Tim would have one of his sudden things that he needs to attend to.
He's just calling Bruce, and he's like, you have something for me to do, right?
Yeah, he's like full somewhere shooting his his Robin string out the window.
I thought you were about to say
grapple
something very different.
his Robin string, is that what we call it now? No, that's if I were like writing the fanfic, I'd be playing out the Robin string coming out full force, like in the bed.
I've died. I'm dead now, actually.
First question. Okay.
One question already. I regret it this game entirely. No, I
feel like, are we collaborating? I feel like we're collaborating.
I think you're collaborating, but you could be, who knows? You might both come up with different ideas, who knows? So the second trope then, if Tim and Bernard were to do it, is the forced proximity trope. Do you know this one?
Explain that one to me?
Yeah. So forced proximity is what happens in a romance when something forces the characters to be together, usually in like a room or a house or a cabin or something like that. A classic is like snowed in, can't get out. So you have to be with the person for an extended period of time.
Yeah. I like this one, I do, but I'm also a person who got stuck in an elevator like not that long ago for like, it was
way less romantic than the movies have told us.
Yeah, I was like, this is definitely not as romantic as, you know, fanfics would lead me to believe.
I believe that every time elevators get stuck, somebody falls in love. That's what
fanfics are about. No, not so much.
See, I think of that like demonic elevator movie. Sorry. We're very different people here.
There are two kinds of people.
There's potential for like some cute kind of like fluffy like domestic connection in like a snowed-in situation, I think, for Tim and Bernard. I can picture some, you know, like obviously whatever the danger is, like Tim can handle it, like, oh, we're snowed in, it's fine. Tim can like make sure everybody's safe and all that, which kind of removes that concern element and instead just, you know, leaves time for, you know, lovely conversation and fluff and things like that.
I love that.
I was thinking, I don't know. Like, I feel like I probably agree. I don't have a strong feeling on this answer, but I don't know. Maybe like Bernard obviously has trouble with his parents, so like he, you know, has to move in with Tim. And I keep coming back to the identity thing where I'm like, well, Tim doesn't know that he knows, so like he's gonna be tiptoeing around it.
He's like trying to hide it the whole time, and Bernard's just like, he just needs to tell me.
I actually really enjoy that.
That's cute.
Really fun. So I could just see that happening like 24/7.
Yeah,
in the boat or
I
whatever.
like that. I like that a lot. You also, with the snowed in, it made me think, you know, Tim's really competent when there is like technology. It'd be kind of fun to have them snowed in and like lose power and they have like no idea how to handle any situation.
Analog.
He was an iPad kid.
Yeah, he really is an iPad kid. That is a facts. That is a facts. He was raised by an iPad. Oh, I like it. All right. So this would be dipping a little toe into more of an AU version of Tim and Bernard then, because we know they obviously didn't do this. But what if they were enemies to lovers?
I would just change his name to Connor. and then because I feel like
make
they
him
were feisty.
Superboy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we
AU.
can't have Connor Kent, just make Bernard a Superboy and an AU.
You know what? That's cute.
That is cute. Yeah.
I like it.
I could also see like if it's maybe not enemies, but like a rivals situation. Like they're both, I don't know, like in the same, competing for valedictorian of their something like cute. That. I don't know.
That is really cute. I like that.
Yeah,
like,
it's like a little softer than enemies, but like there's
Rivals
definitely
to Lovers is cute too.
Mutual
I like
dislike. Yeah.
I still like, obviously we've been in Bernard's head at this point, so it's like, okay, I trust you now. But before issue 7, I was still kind of convinced that like his torture cult was gonna come back, and like I don't know, he was just really wrapped up in that and just seemed real fishy. And like, and I think they're coming back in the last 3 issues. So even part of me now is like, is he still involved with the torture cult? Like, what's going on?
Did you have a moment when it was like, it's me, Bernard, the whole time? And I was like, oh my God.
Yes. Okay. I forgot about that for a second. Yes. They had me going for a hot second.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I think honestly there's a fanfic that probably already exists of him actually having been the villain but still having the romantic connection. Like
yeah. Like issue 7 was Sherlock. So good. But part of me does wish they had followed through with that Bernard fake out, because it would have been really interesting.
I feel like people would have been so mad.
It just would have explained why he was such a piece of wood for so long. And like, okay, a piece of cardboard for so long.
I was like, TJ, your unintended euphemisms are off the chain tonight.
Thank you. So like, I don't know. I mean, Lauren, do you ship Bernard and Tim? I'm just gonna. Yeah. There's
like it's so anodyne. I feel right? It's like the best way I can think of to describe it. I'm not.
It's like physically hard to make it work, right? Like
yeah. We can get more into that.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I just was curious.
No, that's fair. Do you have a favorite trope, Lauren?
I do, actually.
What is your favorite trope?
It's like catnip for me. Fake dating.
Oh my god. Okay, tell me your Bernard Tim fake dating fanfic. Then I'm excited.
I mean, I haven't like actually thought of it, as I just alluded to. I don't like particularly ship Bernard and Tim, but if I had to come up with something, I think there's like, this very classic, like I either need to get someone off my back about like being in a relationship, or I need a distraction from something else, and I can see like Tim bringing Bernard home as like a distraction from something Bruce or Dick has been like nagging about.
Cute.
And then obviously, Bernard is like witnessing Wayne family chaos and being threatened by Damien, and I think that could be kind of fun.
I like it. See, now you're discovering that I made this entire game just so you all could convince me I like Bernard. I was like, give me cute ideas so that I can have some feelings about Bernard.
He's like, Bernard, let's like, we have to like perform in front of my family. Like, and Bernard's like, Tim, we're literally dating. Like, let's just be ourselves.
Yeah, Tim's like, no,
like,
Tim's like, will you be my fake boyfriend? And Bernard's like, haven't I been your real boyfriend?
Yeah.
This is how he realizes that Tim hasn't figured out their dating.
Well, I'm glad we're all mid on Bernard. But okay, issue 7 though.
Yeah, no.
We just needed it way sooner.
We needed it first. Let's be.
Yes.
Yeah. So on that note, so these are some ideas if you want to go write fan fiction about it. But let's all admit that this game would be more fun if we did it as Connor.
Ooh, yeah.
Are you a Tim com shipper, Lauren, or do you have a different Tim ship or anything like that?
I do not have a different Tim ship. I'm not like a hardcore Tim con shipper, but like there's definitely more tension and interest there, and obviously at this point there's more history as well, so like in fairness to Bernard and to Meghan Fitzmartin, like that's been built up for like a really long time, both in canon and in our heads, discourse, and in our heads. So but I mean at this point obviously there's more tension there than between Tim and Bernard, which I'll say again,
doing
feels
the
very
best she
anodyne.
can.
Yes.
Yeah,
they let her do Bernard.
I was gonna say no one was gonna give her Connor, so
he couldn't be the starter.
Right. So in that note, our very final round will be way more fun because this time we're going to do a Tim Con round.
You making this up on the spot? I'm not complaining.
I mean, I decide to yes, because I was like, wow, we all don't get
Tim. Okay, I'm gonna work it into the Bernard theme though.
Okay, give me more rom-com. Endgame is Tim Con, but he's with Bernard. Go.
In my mind, like he's dating Bernard. It's just kind of going through the motion, they're just kind of friends. There's no tension there's nothing passionate between him and Bernard. But then Connor and him maybe go on like a mission together, and there's a moment where we've already seen in like a Meghan story, like their hands linger too long, helping him up, and like Tim just starts thinking about how he's physically feeling like the excitement, and he's like, wow, like I don't have that right now. I think I want that, even if it's not with Connor. And then maybe breaks up with Bernard, but then as soon as he's off of Bernard, Connor's like, hey, deuces, I'm also coming out. I've always been bi, like I didn't need to come out, but and then he'd be like, maybe we could try this, maybe we could get coffee one time.
I love that it would be all that build up to just be like them going, but like, can we do Because
but also, okay, I am a fan of like, hey, we were banging back in the 90s, like no homo, but now a little homo. And so like maybe they can go get coffee, but also they've banged a couple of times in the past.
10 out of 10 would read.
Yeah, that sounds great. Somebody write it. Lauren, do you have one?
You can't beat that.
Okay, so I just finished recently watching a K-drama that was like mafia. Ooh. So now I'm like, what if we have an AU where they're both the princes of crime families of their respective cities and their respective families? So it's, you know, it's like rivals situation, but you know, obviously something
like Superman and Batman.
Yeah, but then there's like a greater enemy emerges. So like the families have to work together. I don't know. Oh, maybe.
This is the torture cult coming back.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What if it is?
All right. That was maybe a little better.
I would read all
I do like it. I like a good AU. I just don't think I'm good at coming up with them.
Yeah.
So props to
yours
you.
was good though. I liked it.
That was not AU.
I mean, it wasn't
that was in canon, baby.
Oh, okay, my bad. I was like, the bold of you to assume.
Bold of you to assume.
Oh my god. Well, that I love how the game amped up immediately as soon as we just put Bernard in the corner.
I do feel a little bad.
I mean, maybe that's where we start. So let's jump into the book and talk about Bernard.
I think someone specifically at one point asked for us to talk about this push we've seen with Bernard and Tim across all platforms. So like all of a sudden Tim came out, they started dating. It was pretty quick. You know, it didn't feel quick, but it was pretty quick. And then, you know, they're together in comics, web comics, video games like Gotham Knights, TV shows like Titans, all at once within like a year span. And someone wrote us and was like, hey, could you talk about this during Pride Month? So I wanted to ask you both, like, what do you think of that push? How do we feel about it? Because, like, I don't know. I know how I feel, but I'm just rambling.
Like it for this one reason. And again, this will unpack all of this. I actually tended to like the other media about Tim and Bernard better than the main story. Anyway, so when they showed up in Wayne Family Adventures, I mean, it's not fair because Wayne Family Adventures is just the best. So when anyone shows up in Wayne Family Adventures, it's better. But their story in Wayne Family was really cute. And it was a lot more emotion than I feel like this series was giving. I didn't play Gotham Knights, so I don't know. But the like scenes I saw, it was he just mentioned him. So I guess I don't have a hard feeling on him existing in Gotham Knights, but like Wayne Family Adventures at least I really liked, so I don't know. What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll start by saying I have not encountered Bernard in these other media. I don't actually play any video games.
I only watched the clips with Bernard.
Okay.
Scenes.
Okay.
So just to give context, it's like you can be Tim and walk around and talk to the Bat Family characters. And depending on like the point in the game and who you're talking to, there's automated conversations. And sometimes he's like, hey, like I'm really nervous about Bernard, telling him who I am. I really care about him. Like it's pretty deep. And like you just see everyone being accepting and supporting him. And then in Titans, of course, this whole last season, him and Bernard have kind of had this they love story. And they finally did. By the
was
end.
It any good? Because I'm still so far behind on Titans.
Same.
No?
Like
it wasn't good.
Okay, Titans overall is pretty mid, but like season 3 I really enjoyed. So season 4 was a really big drop for me. But I mean, like Gay Tim was really, or you know, By Tim was really exciting. So like I enjoyed seeing.
How was the slow burn though? That's what I'm asking.
It was okay. It was okay.
This is the problem. I feel
it was
like
very AU because like Bernard is like an adult grown tech dude working at Star Labs. And
is Tim an adult in Titans?
Unclear. He was questionably maybe 18.
Okay. Because I thought he was a teenager. God. Well, that added a layer.
Weird. But anyway, Lauren, not to totally hijack your response, how do you feel about this push across platforms?
No, that was very good context and background information. Thank you. I think, so whenever something like this happens, especially like at this speed, because institutions tend to kind of move slowly, right? And like DC as a publishing house is an institution. So that does strike me as like different and unique. And I think it's hard as a somewhat cynical person to not read this as like very calculating, as like, oh, you know, we got a lot of media attention when we kind of added this aspect to the Tim Drake character. So, you know, maybe this is a way to continue generating a lot of that kind of positive media attention. What I think is really odd, I guess I'll say, is that listening to the two of you kind of speak about some of these other media is how they sound like they're doing so much more with the character than the kind of primary source material and the kind of originator of this relationship. So I
agree.
really know what to make of that.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
I think we feel that way generally with this series, because our favorite before the issue 7, I feel like we need to just make a whole segment just issue 7 just separate from the rest of the comic, because it's a whole different it's a different thing. But before issue 7, our favorite thing with Tim Bernard Timber, is that what they're called? Timber,
yeah.
Our favorite thing with Timber was the Pride special, which was a totally different team. And I don't know, there was just something about and I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, so I'm not at all like trying to shit on Meghan Fitzmartin or whatever. There's something about the way she writes these two that is completely uninteresting to me.
They felt very sterilized to me, and like there was no passion until issue 7 felt like it was everything I was waiting for. And I'm gonna skip ahead a little, because like at the end of that issue they kiss, you know, it's like there's the second kiss she's written, and they happen really close together, which supposedly neither of those were their first kisses. So we did not see their first kiss anywhere, by the way, which is like, in my mind, I'm like, if I don't see your first kiss, you don't matter. Like, just that's like my rule in my head. I don't know.
The couple doesn't matter if you
like
don't
they just
they
seem so authentic in issue 7, where they're like, I always knew you were, you know, I forget what they say exactly, but it's like, oh, like I always knew you were, I always wondered. Like they're saying things that like queer young people would be saying to each other dating, and I'm like, oh, why didn't we have this throughout the entire first 6 issues? Like,
sterile is a really good way to put it. That is it. This feels like the other parts of it until 7 felt like a early 2000s queer story, and I think that's what's throwing me, because we've been reading Shadowhunters, and you go back and you read something that came out in when 2007, when was that out?
Probably
2007, and you're like, oh my god, there's a queer character in the distance, I see him, you know, like and they kiss off page, and they, you know, all the major moments happen off page.
They're together, but they're not very intimate, like,
no, because they can't be, right? Like it couldn't be published. And it feels interesting to have this book now, especially at DC now, because DC is putting out a lot of queer content, like constantly. So it almost feels like, why did you feel like you had to kind of like tiptoe in this one book? Especially because that's still the main point of this book. It seems like it's still really important that this is his like queer story. So why are we acting like it's 2007 in here?
I'm having like so many thoughts that I wasn't having before, which is why I'm so happy to be here and be in this conversation. Yes, exactly. Kind of thinking back even farther than the early 2000s, and thinking back to like earlier Tim Drake, so like 90s, and how you know, Tim Drake was with Ariana, like a long-term girlfriend with whom things also were like pretty sterile and not all that exciting a lot of the time. And there were kind of my reading of it is very much like Tim and Ariana have to be kind of sterile because it's the 90s, and there's this like really intense kind of purity culture, and they're still in high school and this and that. But then interestingly, Stephanie comes along and kind of like shakes all that up, has this moment almost like you described in your story, TJ, with Tim and Connor, where he's like, oh, this is exciting, this is interesting, this is something I don't have, you know. So now I'm kind of like, well, maybe like Ariana, and something else is going to come along that is more exciting. And this is kind of setting Tim up for a turn like that. I don't know. This is reading a lot.
Right.
No, but that would be
that might not be there, but
amazing. If true, huge, you know. Like...
Chris was convinced that Bernard was going to be written out and they'd break up by the end of the first 6 issues. Is that what it was?
And I actually said I think Bernard's going to die by the end of the first 6.
Yeah, you're like, they're just, he's going to be out.
It's not even because I want him to die, but I genuinely was like, he's so not a thing other than a love interest that he almost reads to me like, you know, a woman in an action movie, right? Like he's just there to have fun. Right. He felt frigible to me. The fact that he lived, I was like, that's unexpected.
Right. I would say issue 7, of course, really fleshed him out, I think.
Yeah.
But we're talking 3 issues.
1 through 6. 1 through 6 to me was like the first 5 minutes of an action movie where you get all those shots so you can flash back on them later after, you know, they're dead. And I was like waiting for him to have flashbacks of holding his hand.
Yeah. No, I mean, you had mentioned, Chris, that like this is still about him coming out. And I do think this is like the era of, and what Meghan's, you know, run entirely will be known for is him coming out, getting a boyfriend and discovering himself, you know, and that's why, and pretty much why everyone's reading, you know, you loved the character and you're sticking around, or you're hopping on board because you care about this aspect of the character that's new. But it felt like to me that these first 6 issues were Meghan trying to distance herself from that plot line, like saying, this is not just what this era is. I want to talk about detective stories and show that side of Tim. And while I really, really respect that, I think only having that for the first 6 issues was a mistake. And I think it was too long of a period. Everyone dropped off. Sales probably dropped off pretty quickly. And like,
it was too soon because we
worked it. Yeah, like do a B plot with Bernard. Issue 7, work it in. I just think it was a fumble, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was too soon to do that because absolutely, if we had like a ton of issue, we had a whole run of Tim before this with Bernard, like discovering himself, distancing him from it and giving him like more going on makes sense. But we didn't. We had like those 5 Pride issues that were in a non-main storyline, and it didn't even have a kiss in that one. Like they literally got all the way through and all they got to was, will you go out with me? Like then you can't do that kind of a slow burn and then immediately blue ball us. I don't know what to tell you. You and just can't.
We needed that kiss. That end of the issue scene from issue 6, I think needed to be in issue 1. And then, you know, we needed to hit the ground running because we'd already been slugging along. And then it just felt like we took our sweet time. And then we got canceled.
A slow burn, I've said this before and I'm going to say it forever. A slow burn has to have tension. A slow burn is not nothing happening, you know? And I think this was supposed to be a slow burn between them, but there's zero tension ever. There's the least tension I've ever seen between a couple that's supposed to like each other.
Supposed to.
Sorry.
So I totally agree. There is not tension between Tim and Bernard, but I also kept coming back as I was reading these to this idea of tension, because it seems like there's this very uncomfortable tension between different kind of genres almost. Like I think, TJ, your observation that it almost seems like the author is trying to stake a claim that this is not just about Tim's sexuality and not just about Tim's dating life rings so true. But then it also becomes this balancing act where the creators are trying to balance telling, you know, a like hard-boiled real detective story with a, you know, first time being out on his own and living alone story, and this dating Bernard story. And like, I feel like each one of these on their own that have been truly invested in could have been really, really phenomenal, but trying to balance all of them really, you know, you end up being like jack of all trades, master of none. And I think, you know, at least for us, right, like we are very much missing specifically the Tim Bernard story. Would like to have seen a lot more of that. There may be people who would have been very satisfied with like a more coming of age type, striking out on your own type story, or this other one, but that tension between them all kind of like sort of existing but not existing in full. Made it really hard for me to get my bearings.
Absolutely. I'm 100% there, because I don't think any of us were, I mean, we're talking a lot about like what we wanted Tim Bernard to be, mostly because again, they've been kind of pushing it, right? Like, so we have to have feelings about it. It's not been background. But I would have been okay with a queer story that wasn't about romance. It doesn't have to be and still be about him coming out and figuring out who he is. He could have, like, one of my favorite comics is Midnighter, and it's in that comic he's literally on like Tinder. Like, he is dating around. There's no one guy in it because he's like away from his, Apollo for a little while, which Apollo Endgame, right? But like, he got to date around, he got to kiss a bunch of dudes. That would have been fine. Like, it doesn't have to be a romance, but it had to commit to something. And it wasn't. So it wasn't just like, committing to, okay, he's finding himself because he's already in a relationship. So that's happening. And it is, I don't know. It's weird. And it's weird that they jumped ahead 6 months in their relationship too, because it's like, we got up to the first ask out and then completely skip it and come back into the story 6 months in. And it's like, there's a lot of interesting stories to be told about an established couple. I don't think this does that at all. But the easy love story is always new love. So why did you skip the easy part and then fail on the hard part?
Right. Yeah. And like, we asked Meghan at one point, and I'm assuming this was on the air, or else I wouldn't be saying it. Like,
I'll check before we edit it.
DC had not restricted her from saying or doing anything on the page, and she made the point, and I'm taking her at her word, was saying like any limits had been on herself from herself.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I respect that from like a creative perspective. So like, when I think about here, I'm like, all right, was DC trying to, did they not want to be, I don't know. So I'm like, was it Meghan?
That doesn't fit with the current DC that we're seeing, is the part that throws me. Because if the thing that really kills this series, I think, to be honest with you, is that John Kent Superman is coming out simultaneously. So we have bisexual Superman, we have him figuring himself out, we have him in love with Jay Nakamura. Jay Nakamura is an exquisite love interest, like A+, has a personality, is interesting, does things. I mean, the stories are literally parallel. So to watch that one happening and then to scoot over here and be like, I guess this is happening too. You are seeing that it can't be DC. It doesn't make sense for it to be DC, because DC is creating something that's so progressive here, and on this side something that feels so regressive. It doesn't make sense to me that it's an editorial thing. I mean, maybe it is, but it doesn't make sense that it would be.
I guess part of me is just like, I feel like it's Meghan who made these decisions. I
do too.
But I also don't want to put the entire blame on Meghan, I'm like, because I do like Meghan, and I think she did the best she could, and like, she probably did run into some things that they were like, hey, not yet, hold back on that, because part of me is just like, I don't believe that she would have, the fact that she was capable of writing Tim and Bernard the way she did in issue 6, and we didn't get that, issue 7, and we didn't get that until issue 7, just feels so phony to me. And that, like, like, either she was holding back 100% for some reason, or something shifted where they were like, hey, that thing you've been wanting to do, you can finally do it. And and there's like no way to know for certain. So like, I'm trying to divide the blame a little bit.
I think that's fair.
Because it's like, Meghan, you proved, like, I've been waiting for you to prove yourself. You just did it. So like, why, it just seems very weird to me.
I mean, but also, like, again, it isn't about, I mean, for me, it isn't about who we're blaming, because I don't really feel like
I don't want to blame
anybody.
Anyone, but...
I don't think it is that. I think it's more like, sometimes authors are not equally good all the time. Like, there's also that, like, we're just assuming, oh, she's capable of 7, so she was capable of it the whole time. But like, I've read a lot of people where like, wow, this book are both the same people. Like, it doesn't always, we don't always hit home runs. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe she struggles with detective stories, but really excels at the rom-com, you know. Anyway,
what are you thinking? No, what are you thinking of all this, Lauren? I want you to weigh in because I feel like we're just like ping-ponging over here.
I mean, I feel like I agree with everything that's being said, and I would love to know more kind of about the writing process.
Right.
You know, like why some of the choices that were made, right? Like why the choice to try to establish this relationship at the same time as we're like establishing a new villain, at the same time as we're establishing a new setting. And I think sometimes that can be really, really successful and exciting, but I also think it might be from an authorial perspective, spreading yourself a little thin and you know, so I would be really kind of curious to know like what was motivating this desire to again try to do so many things all at once, and in turn kind of sublimating this queer romance that was originally the most exciting new aspect of this. You know, it kind of feels like because that had such a lead up before this series started, it feels like that's the thing that ends up feeling like it's lacking the most, right? Because none of these other things really were introduced before or had any lead up to. And in turn, it kind of feels like, wow, this is the most important thing, and it should be the most important thing, and it's really new and exciting and has a lot of potential, and then the potential is squandered in favor of a houseboat that looks like a murder shack and a villain who is not particularly compelling either.
How do you make Moriarty uninteresting? Like, if we're talking about things that should be easy like Moriarty is already, like, if we're talking about classic Moriarty, is already a very queer coded, very like dynamic. And if we think of like BBC Sherlock, oh my god, like sexy, hot.
It's like it should have been Bernard, I'm telling you.
I mean,
you're winning me over on this, TJ.
I kind
of
agree.
I mean, it would have added so much tension to their relationship, and you know, I do like sweet Bernard that knows he's Robin, that we get in issue 7, but I'm like, you know what, too little too late though. Like we had this chance to do something, and she knew it was a chance, you know, obviously, because she made it a fake out. But and I don't want to be too like I'm struggling over here because I want to be grateful for everything Meghan accomplished and pushed for since taking over Tim's story, because like we would not have queer Tim Drake as soon as we do, you know. Let's hope it would have happened eventually. But I also, you know, we want to criticize the things that didn't really work out here.
It is. I always feel so torn, and this might just be where my headspace is today, so you know, fair warning, listeners. But I feel so torn about like, oh, we should just be grateful. I'm like, yeah, but we spent years just being grateful for breadcrumbs. You know what I mean? This is 2023. Not to pull a John Zia on us, but this is 2023, and everywhere else in DC we don't have breadcrumbs. So I'm a little hesitant to be that grateful for something so little, because I remember what it felt like when we found out, right? Like when he came out on the page and we were like, this is going to be such a glorious time to be a Tim fan. And then 5 like issues later, we were already going, okay, when's that coming? When is that feeling coming back? Because it died on the table immediately. And then we found out, oh, she's getting her own series. Well, this is when it's going to happen. And so you're kind of like, okay, you did one thing that was amazing, and it was amazing. And I'm in concept, but like, why no more? Why nothing else? Like, you've already broken through. Do it now. Do your thing.
Yeah. And especially if we're like, all right, it's just you limiting yourself, if we're going off of your word. And, you know, I just don't want to I don't want to feel mean, you know. But no, Chris, I totally agree. I agree.
I feel, I feel the conflict. I know, because we've literally talked to her, and she's a very sweet person, and I'm not saying anything bad about her, and I hope that's clear.
And I guess the difference is I
just don't think she wrote it well. I really don't. See, you think she did her best. I don't.
I think
she could have given more.
I think she was trying her best, and
I don't think so. I think she held herself back, but that's my opinion.
Okay. No, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about it, because I think you're probably right.
That's just, I don't know. I have a tendency though, like when I get really invested in a writer's work, it's the therapist in me. I start going like, what's going on? Like when you read more than one thing by an author, do you do this too, Lauren? Where you're just like, now I've read multiple things. I feel like I know this person. I'm like analyzing it. Where I'm like, what does this say about this person? And I just feel the sense I feel, which might be totally wrong and off base. This is a parasocial relationship at best. I feel the holding back when I read it. It feels contained in a way that I don't understand why it would be.
Yeah.
I'm like, let go. Let your flag wave, Megan. You can do it.
Okay, I'm gonna force you both to say something positive about these first 6 issues.
Yep. I made a list of pros.
I have some too. I have some too.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, bless you.
I did too. You're good.
Okay. So like, Lauren, why don't you start us off with some things that you liked in this?
Yeah. So the first thing I wrote, which is just like silly, and this again didn't happen until much too late, was just 2 boys kissing. Yay! Good. It's there. Maybe too little too late, but it's there. I'm happy about the box. Yes. Okay, great.
Your first pro. And then you had to go back and find some more.
That was an easy one. I really like this the idea of the marina.
Me too.
Yes, okay. Great. Okay, I'm going to say why, and then you can say why. And maybe we're on the same page, and maybe we're not. But even if we're not, there will be more interesting things that we like about it.
Yes.
So I'm like an adolescent studies person, and I'm really interested in like how that, what that experience looks like for people. And like a phrase that gets super overused to the point that it's kind of meaningless, but still applies here, is the notion that adolescence is a liminal space.
Yes.
And so is a marina, right? And Tim is sort of past this kind of like adolescence and would be in, young adulthood, or like some scholars are trying to stake a claim for this new life stage called emerging adulthood. Okay, like maybe he's an emerging adult. So he's not like a teenager anymore, but is still very much in this like time and space of figuring things out. And I feel like the marina kind of like makes that visible in a way that him just like living in a different apartment in the city doesn't, right? It's not like real. It's not on land. It's just, and then the way that the author has also kind of created this, and this is going to get into a little bit of a con, but has created this like fascinating cast of like weirdos who live on the marina, because like, it's a place for like weirdness and strangeness that doesn't fit into a lot of other places. It's like overflow in a
one
cool
might
way.
Say.
Yes, exactly. And I think that is so great. I wish that the side characters on the marina had gotten a lot more attention, because I am like a sucker for side characters. Like I'm always more invested in that usually than like a main storyline.
Oh, same.
But so I love the setting, and I love the idea of the marina as very like symbolic of a young person striking out on their own, but like not being quite there yet.
Yes, 100% the same. I mean, on board. Boat metaphor, we're on board.
Oh my gosh, so
good. but truly, I loved everything about the marina, the boat, the whole concept. And if we're talking about like Tim as adolescent, even though he's technically in his probably 20s, I don't know, we don't know how old he is. He's in that speaking of liminal stages, whatever age any comic book character is ever, but theoretically like 19 to 20 or whatever. But if we're thinking about like a queer closeted teen, I'm sure right, like the adolescence tends to emerge after coming out. So even if you're technically not a teenager anymore, you get that second teenagehood when you get to be your real self. So he's getting that like adolescent, experience of being queer in that liminal space, as you're talking about. Love it. I'm obsessed with it. I am with you. I was ready for the marina cast to be like Parks and Rec. I wanted it to be that town where everybody and they all like, that's Jam over there. He's, what I mean? Like I was ready for that to be every issue. There would be just some hijinks happening at the marina. I would have killed for that. Like that is
Tell me more about Tuna. There's a character named Tuna.
What's going on with Tuna? What's his deal? I want to know everything. I love it. I love it.
So many of them are so queer coded, and I love casual queerness.
Did you think that the 2 women were drag queens? Yes, I definitely did.
It's very possible.
Yeah,
Like they seemed very queer, but when you're doing casual queerness like that, and you're not giving us the Tim Bernard stuff we want, it just starts to feel like more
Yes.
not give,
we're
nudge,
trying to
nudge,
stay
wink,
on
wink.
the positive, I know, but literally
Yes.
the moment that really nailed home for me was when they were like, oh, you mean the two lesbians with the progressive flag? And I looked at the panel and I was like, it's not here. They didn't draw it. Like, you're literally telling us that boat has a progressive flag on it. I can see the boat. Where's the flag?
Gotta your magnifying glass.
I'm like, where is it? You can't just say things like that. You can't just say it and not draw it. What the hell? But no, truly, I think that was one of the strengths of the story. It's so unfortunate because I feel like a lot of my pluses are gonna circle back around to critiques because that was the strength. So why didn't we get more of it?
Maybe issue 10 will be a whole issue through the perspective of the side characters.
That would be hysterical. It's just like we just pop into different heads of what they think is going on with Tim.
That would be so cute. Like short little stories throughout the marina, and they all add up to one Robin story in the background.
There's so much potential there. I would love that. Yeah. And there was like, I agree. The side characters not all, but like there was so much kind of casual queerness kind of coded in there. There was a mention of a non-binary character. There was a mention of like a potential throuple situation. And I just, I think that was all in issue 1. And I was like ready for that. I was ready for, kind of a friendly Marina Hood Robin situation where like instead of this like giant new villain, we're solving small mysteries.
That would have been amazing.
Like let's just turn it into Rent. They have to like stop the marina from being taken over.
Which was also there, right? There wwere these concerns about eviction and complaints, and Bernard is like, these capitalist fat cats, and I'm like, oh, Bernard is anti-capitalist. Tell me more about that.
Bernard, like somebody call. I feel like it was coded as a homophobic incident when somebody was like firing the one guy for being like deplorable. What I don't know. It was like it felt homophobic, right?
They used
degenerate. Yeah, it felt like a homophobic thing. And Bernard was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna like clock this guy. And literally Tim is like holding him back. I was like, this is the most I've loved Bernard ever.
Well, and I think these first 6 issues felt, especially reading monthly, felt so long and drawn out. Like, and if we had focused more on like episodic little missions in this,
cute.
Sorry, what do we call it again? What's the community?
The marina.
The marina, sorry. Yeah, if we had just focused in the marina and like fleshed out the queerina and like made those characters more established, I think that would have been really, really strong. And like maybe made the B plot of the first 6 issues running throughout. Yeah. And maybe introducing a villain slowly,
Yeah.
Which I guess we did.
He better save the marina by the end of the thing or I'm gonna be mad. But I also really if we're another plus tied in here. I love the part where he's trying to decide, the whole thing is him constantly second guessing himself about literally every decision, which is so very Tim. And I did really like that. I thought it was well done. But one of my favorite ones is where he's thinking through which each member of his family would react to the marina. And it's such a cute moment. He's like, Bruce would hate it. Dick would be supportive, but also like super uninterested. Jason would think it's the coolest. And I was like, he would. He's just running down the family members. And I was like, it would have been great if we had seen it.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like that was one of my problems. There was a lot of telling, not showing in this comic for a visual medium.
Well, and each issue came out with a special variant featuring one of his siblings with him. I bought all of them. They should have all guest starred in an issue. Like, not that Tim can't carry his own series, but like, I don't know.
We want to see them together.
Yeah, like we are in his head so much that it was really chaotic for me and hard to follow. But like, if we had him playing off of someone different every issue, and a character we cared about, what is her name? Sparrow.
Oh, yeah,
like
Sparrow.
I didn't care about her. I'm sorry. No. Why is she here?
I want to get back to actually saying positive things, but we are detouring into. No, I'm not doing it yet. Sparrow was a strange choice. So Sparrow is a We Are Robin character. So this is a character I did know, and I do like We Are Robin.
I love We Are Robin.
Right? It's very good. I want to hear what you have to say about We Are Robin. Genuinely, what do you think about We Are Robin? Do you love it
right now?
Yeah. Yes. Go.
Yes.
Ready, set, go.
Yes. I love We Are Robin because it is so resistant to the idea of individual heroism. Yeah. It's so reliant on young people coming together to affect change, and also young people with this kind of like very minimal adult intervention, which I love. And of course, many of the individual characters that series spawned, I think, are fantastic. So yes, I love We Are Robin. So I love that Sparrow came from We Are Robin. I think
she's just not one of the ones you cared about.
I love her thigh tattoo.
So okay, let's be honest. If someone was to tell you this is a Tim Drake comic starring a standout character from We Are Robin, Sparrow would not be even the sixth person you would assume it would be.
No.
Like obviously Duke is the standout, and I would have been a fun sidekick in this. He's not doing anything literally anywhere.
And Duke and Darcy seem to have the same family name, but no apparent relation, which it wasn't mentioned.
That is such a Gotham thing. I love that. They're constantly just recycling names in Gotham.
I mean, it's fine. It's a common surname. As someone with a very common surname, so
I know, but
it does happen.
I agree, but also I'm begging DC Comics writers to Google Gotham and the name before you name people, because it's driving me crazy. Again, that there are so many Jason and Tims when there are literally Jason and Tim as main characters. It's insane that happens. But
so I know
at least Thomas is not that bad.
Meghan wrote 2 Tim issues in Future State that were her first, I think they were her first comics.
Yeah.
And it's, definitely first for Tim.
Yeah.
And Sparrow was in them. It was like the AU Future. So I knew her from that. And I was like, okay, this is a character Meghan obviously has some sort of attachment for. So she keeps bringing her back.
I like that she
stop trying to make fetch happen.
No, I agree. I like that she is a character with a disability, but I don't love that it disappears after one panel. I was like, isn't she deaf? And she proceeds to never use sign language again after the one time.
Yep.
I was confused about that because she obviously was deaf, but then it just seemed like it wasn't really established or acknowledged, and maybe part of that's the art. I don't know.
But she and Tim greet each other in sign language, which I was like, that's actually a really cool panel. And then she proceeds to talk the rest of the time, never moving her hands, and I was like,
yeah,
she is the character that's deaf, right? Like I had to actually go look. It was a problem for me. I didn't like that.
And that can be hard to convey in comics. I mean,
but
Hawkeye did
impossible.
it right. Yeah. Hawkeye did it really, really well. I feel like there's ways to do it, and I don't know. Just open. This sounds so mean. I'm like, does it shock me that this didn't know how to do that well? I guess not.
I was thinking post Matt Fraction and David Age's Hawkeye. I do feel like
you should do better.
I agree. I think if you it is erasure. It is a form of
erasure. And the fact that oh God, we were trying to be positive, and I'm about to be so mean. So I'm sorry.
I mean, we obviously have issues, so we can't
have issues. So I'm gonna
tiptoe too much.
No, this is gonna be the worst thing I've said this whole time. So
is this about the art?
No, not
okay.
We'll get back to the art. Before that, Sparrow being a character that's chosen to me felt like checking a diversity box because there are so many interesting We Are Robin's characters, and there is nothing about Sparrow that's very interesting except the fact that she's deaf, and we don't get more things. It isn't like she picks a character that's deaf and then writes a very interesting story for that character. It felt more like I pick a character that's deaf, so here's our deaf character. It felt like tokenism to me. And to then immediately stop ever representing it at all. As soon as that happens, I was like,
yeah, we did nothing with it.
Yeah. The box is half checked at best.
Yeah, it's not even fully checked.
It's because it's not meaningful representation. No. It's
you know what?
You use the word tokenism, and
I'm going to give it to you 100% because I might have spoken about this on the podcast briefly before in one of our Drake watches, maybe, but there was definitely a point in our group chat, Chris, where I was following. So Meghan also wrote the Young Justice miniseries that came out during Dark Crisis recently, and Tim is in it, Connor's in it, and stuff happens.
And it's referenced in this very quickly.
I have a lot of issues with that too. But one of my biggest issues with it was that in one issue, they reintroduced one of the original Young Justice team members. I think it's Arrowette is her name.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go find her, track her down. We find her at school. She's like, oh, hey, yeah, this is me. And oh, here's my buddy, whatever their name is. They're non-binary and they are non-binary. And you're like, okay, like you're really establishing this new character who's non-binary. That's really cool. How are they gonna come into play in this plot? Because you're making a huge point of introducing this character. And literally that character vanishes after that page and never comes back or is mentioned. And again, I'm all for casual representation. I think that's really not casual important too. Right. That felt more like tokenism to me. It felt very performative and it didn't feel genuine. It felt very shoehorned in. And again,
casual representation. Let's define it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get academic, right? Casual representation. Does anyone watch Abbott Elementary?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
No, but I read a lot about it. I don't have television.
Honestly,
I just started binging it. It's great. Very cute.
The representation of the character of Jacob being queer is casual representation. He doesn't come out. He's already out before the show happens. It's just brought up. It's a part of who he is. He is a main character. And so when it's important to come up, it does. He has a boyfriend, just like other people in the show have outside people. We even see him sometimes.
And you don't know he's gay until like a couple episodes in, I think, right?
You don't know for sure, but if you're paying like close attention and maybe if you already have been tipped off the fact that he's gay, there's hints all the way through. There's moments where he's like, oh yeah, Sidney Poitier is so handsome. Like it could have been just like a casual thing, but you're like, oh, I see. Like he's, so it was.
He's not just his sexuality.
He's not just his sexuality, but his sexuality is still essential to his character. It informs his character. It is consistently represented. It's just not the whole story. That's casual representation. Casual representation is not, here's a character for 5 seconds. Aren't we so great for having this character for 5 seconds? That's tokenism.
Right.
They have to be part of the story for it to be casual.
The only, like, I'm thinking if someone was just like, hey, like, random person on the street, I need you to fill this plot thing for 2 seconds. Oh, you're non-binary. That's cool. Here are your pronouns. Like, again, could seem tokenism to me. But if you have a main character who is like, all, you know what I mean? If that isn't the only form of that representation you're getting, I feel like that's not as bad.
No. I agree. You're right. If there's just,
but that was not the case.
I do like side characters just being casually queer or casually disabled or casually. Yes, I agree. That's totally fine.
That can't be the only thing.
You can't get points for it.
Right.
You don't get points for that. That's minimum.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So we are, I think we're all on the same page.
Sparrow was tokenism. That's why she bothered me. Not because
I see it, yeah.
I wish she had been interesting. I wish we had gotten a little more, like, I just watched Eternals, which isn't even, I will go ahead and say, I like Makari a lot. She isn't even that big of a character and she should have been more. So it's past tokenism, but it's not far past tokenism, right? So it's already doing better than this was, though. But at least Makari was interesting. At least that character had a purpose, whereas Sparrow literally does absolutely nothing in this entire comic except for have a moment or two with him. Like, that's it. And they're not even meaningful moments. Like, I couldn't tell you right now any conversation they had. I just read it today.
No, it just makes me like confused as to why she's there. Like, she's his sidekick? Why?
But she isn't.
Why don't we let Bernard do something? Or like we said, bring in someone more interesting, like Dick for an issue.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, have every one of the like siblings come in one issue to be a sidekick would have been fun. Duke would have been a fun sidekick if we're one of We Are Robin. Like, again, he is not doing anything. Freaking Harper is right there, and they already have that dynamic.
Yeah, Harper would have been great.
Harper would have been perfect. And Harper basically would fill that entire role, right? Like, that is a Harper role to play, and she would have done it with pizzazz.
Well, like, and if you're gonna give that role to a character, make it so minimalistic.
Yeah.
Don't give it to, like you're saying, don't give it to the deaf character, you're not going to give the amount of time that they need to be fleshed out and feel important and respected. Give it to a character like Dick Grayson, or
we already know
Harper a little less, like, because I feel like Harper needs that attention too at this point. But like Dick has his own title, like have him pop in and like fill this role, and then you're not feeling like you're getting, discounted because he's everywhere.
Again, that role didn't do anything, so I did. You could have absolutely not have that role. No.
Which, should we talk about the art? Like,
remember when we were trying to say nice things?
Hey, okay.
Should we do that first before we talk about these?
So my positive thing.
Yes. Did we get through Lauren's list? Because I think we derailed.
I'm sorry, Lauren. Yeah. Do you have more positives?
They went to a library.
Yes.
They killed the librarian.
They did kill the librarian.
Me up.
I love libraries, and
I work at a library.
Representation as well. Libraries are under attack, so we should. I mean,
maybe not kill the librarian.
Theoretically, yes, they are metaphorically under. They are financially, politically under attack.
Yeah. I'm holed up in my office,
literally under the attack.
Fires surrounding me.
So they went to a library, but then they killed the librarian. Okay,
that's cute.
There is a gay cop. But then I
do like him.
What if we don't have cops?
Yeah,
is he the cop from the special?
He is the cop from the special.
Yeah, Detective
I know.
Williams.
In the I wish he wasn't a cop, but I do.
There was something there that could have been really good.
He has a queer Gordon, and I do like that. And it would have been great if that character did things. He's also Asian. You can't tell in this one because of the art. We'll get back around to it, but that character is Asian, and we know that from the last series.
I did remember that as well. And again, that's we'll talk about it.
We'll get to the art,
I guess.
We will get there.
But at one point too, the character even says to Tim, like, "Oh, I'm not your fairy gay father." And then I'm like, cute. Two things. What if you weren't a cop? And also, what if you were? Because again, having like a more meaningful relationship in Tim's life that highlights this kind of new thing that he's doing, right? This embrace of his queerness and exploration of queer culture. I think that could have been a lot more compelling. So again, it's like good and bad. We went to a library, but we killed the librarian. We have a gay cop, but he's a cop and doesn't have a very meaningful role. So
even if he were, I think it would also be cute to have a reluctant gay mentor too, though. I do think if it kept coming back, right? That line was fine to me. If it had just been repeated, like he's like, "I'm not your fairy gay father," whatever. And then every time something happens, he's like, then nobody else is doing it, so it's gotta be me.
Yep. Boo, motherfuckers. Yeah, that would have been
great. just one time, let Robin ask him about how to take his boyfriend on a date. That's just one.
Yes.
Like, just so, again, more nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Like, for so long with this character, it felt like there was a metaphor going on. I couldn't tell what was metaphor, what was textual. And then finally, it's like, no, like, he is queer. He has a husband. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm here for this. Okay, the metaphor now is working for me because I have something textual to like put it in conversation with. And then,
he did say he was gay in the last series. It wasn't just when he said he has a husband, because they have a conversation.
No, I know. I feel like it was just something. It was like that 3-parter, and it took a while to like unfold. And then they were like tiptoeing around, like, because at that point it was like, Tim isn't out. Is he? Like,
if we're gonna like swerve back, and we keep trying to say nice things, and then I keep going, but what about this?
It's complicated.
If talking about a tokenistic kind of thing, the moment where he's like, "I'm going home to sleep with my husband," I was just like, oh my god. Okay, I know he doesn't say it quite like that, but also, yes, he did.
It just wasn't subtle.
It was like, wow, that was weird and awkward, and it reminded me of the movie Clue, where they have the queer character. Have you seen the movie Clue? Where he goes,
I love Clue.
He goes, "I'm going home to sleep with my husband." And I was like, are they referencing Clue?
Yeah, I am a cop and I am homosexual.
That is Clue. That is Clue, and that's why I was like, wait, is this accidentally referencing Clue?
Maybe.
Once again, which was progressive when it came out in the 80s.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'm gonna ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Okay, so obviously we're like, he's a cop. Oh.
Yeah.
but then we also have like the religious stuff that was in the issues that came out before these 6-7 issues,
and in this
but
one.
Yeah, there's something in like issue 2 or 3 where it gets a little, there's like religious commentary or metaphor or something going on.
Yeah.
How did that work for you too?
I would have
how did you feel about it?
Loved to have any type of context for what we're supposed to feel about that.
Yeah.
It was another thing that's just there. I mean, it was so much weirder. We talked about this already. You can go back and listen to our Drake Watch episodes. It was so much weirder in the first series when it was just like Batman handing baby Jesus to Tim, and we were like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah,
did you read those, Lauren?
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I feel the same. It's weird. I mean, like, I guess the context is like America.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean? Like, and the fact that like there is this like undercurrent of like lately Christian nationalism, like everywhere you turn. But like that's not something that that's not something I expect here.
Yeah.
Nor something that I welcome.
It's never been a part of the Wayne family history, right? Like, it's not even like his parents are shown to be religious ever. Right. The only religious character in Gotham is fucking Azazel, and he thinks he's an archangel. He's running around having a psychotic break. So that's the only religious character in the story usually. And so then to have it kind of like be a thing, but also not be a thing, I was like, what is it? What's happening? What's this mean?
And then, so I guess I'm bringing up the cop thing too. I'm trying to connect the dots here of like,
connect those dots.
What is this?
We'll get there.
What is this story or this author trying to say with what we've been given? Because we have like, we have this, we're not saying a lot with sexuality, we're putting it on the page, but we're also doing that same thing with this religious stuff that keeps cropping up, like a panel here and there. I don't really understand what's happening. What do you, so I'm like, there's these two ideologies that seem like they could not usually be put in conversation in a
they could be
respectful
put in conversation.
way.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry, I was trying to get there. But like, and I think that's what Meghan talks a lot about her faith and supporting queer youth. And like, so I feel like maybe that's what she was trying to go for with tackling these two topics that are close to her heart.
Which is bold to say that she tackled that topic.
Right. Attempting to tackle. And it's like, I just don't know what, even with the queer stuff sometimes, it's like, what were you trying to say here? What?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just more of that.
No, I agree. I don't have answers. I mean, I'm still weirded out by the baby Jesus scene, and I always will be.
That was rough.
Batman just handed him a baby Jesus statue.
I suppose it could be an attempt on the part of the author to demonstrate that, like, these two things are not always in conflict and don't have to be in conflict. But I mean, like, I don't know.
It's not even a story.
In 2020, it's not a story, and in 2023, that does not feel very genuine. True to many people's experiences.
Right.
And again, feels like a continued kind of sublimation of the queer storyline that we all were hoping to get a lot more of.
Right. It at the very least, there should be tension, right? Like, if you're going to have this queer cop that goes to a church, and that's like a big part of his character, which seems like, I guess it is, but again, we don't get much of his character, so it's hard to like, there's like cop, God, queer, there's a lot happening in a character we don't see it much of, all things that should be like cognitive dissonance-y for someone, which would be interesting. But this is probably not the story to do it in. There's not time or space for that kind of a story, I feel like. And it's such a sensitive and hard and painful thing. All of it trying to fit together would be a sensitive, hard, painful thing. So maybe you just don't. If you don't have time to do it, well, maybe you don't do it. That's, I guess, what I'm saying.
My first thought was, like, breaking up with Stephanie off panel.
So true.
That was a low blow, though.
No, but that's true.
I get it. She had to go.
That was not cool. She deserved better.
Any more?
Lauren, did you find more positive things for us to wreck 5 seconds after you say it?
I mean, the only other thing that I did right, and again, this is like this is like a softball, I guess. It's like, oh, okay, we're focusing on Tim as a detective.
Yeah.
Which that is and has always been like a very kind of driving characteristic for Tim and something that is really important to him. So, you know, kind of trying to highlight that again, I think is really good. I just also think that it was there were too many other things going on that we didn't even quite get enough of that. You know, we had a lot of Sherlock Holmes references and Conan Doyle references and Raymond Chandler references and Scooby-Doo references and all these different things, which I think had the potential to be really, really fun.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if, you know, we're wanting in this storyline for Tim to be finding himself separate from his family and maybe finding some new aspects of his identity that he hadn't interrogated or hung out with and spent a lot of time with before. We know Tim as a detective and Tim knows Tim as a detective.
Yeah.
So it's tried and true, which is great. But it also detracts from some potentially new exciting things.
Yeah, I agree. I do enjoy seeing it actually depicted because I feel like we do know him as a detective, but we actually haven't seen him do it in a hot minute, probably since Batman was fake dead for that while there, when he was detecting all over the place, but he hasn't really had much chance to do any of that for a while. So it was kind of fun. I liked that it was very BBC Sherlock in the way it was depicted, where he's like, I see it all in my head. He goes into his mind castle at one point. I was like, that's cute. Like, Megan, you watched Sherlock. I see you. And I'm okay with that. I liked that bit. So I did like it, but I think you're right. Like, it is a part of him that isn't new and interesting. And there could have been a way to do that, I think, maybe if he realizes he's leaning on that part because the rest of his life is so uncertain. Right? Like, that's interesting. Like, this is something I'm good at. Everything else is confusing. Like, I can be a detective. I barely can be a boyfriend. I don't know if I'm managing to like live on this ship. I haven't cooked dinner in 3 days. You know, like
same.
Something too that I thought could be really compelling is if he were to turn those detective skills on himself, because I'm doing that now, right? Like, I'm going back through old Tim and thinking about all of these moments that I'm like, wow, like, if you want to, and I obviously do, and many other people may be interested as well, you can go back and read a lot of like clues to Tim's queerness, even as early as 1988, right? Like, he shows up to Dick Grayson in Starfire's apartment, and Starfire is in a teeny tiny bathrobe, and he's like, "Where's Dick? I need to talk to him." And it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, you can go back and kind of like do that type of detective work. And I was like, oh, but like, what if Tim turned that on himself? And like, that was the story of Tim being a detective of Tim, but like that didn't happen.
And that's something almost Barbara Oracle says to him in that 3-parter that we first originally got. She's like, you need to turn that big brain on yourself, and you're scared to. And it just feels like we didn't get that. We didn't get the follow through. We skipped it in that 6 months.
Yes. We get him questioning a lot, right? We get him asking a lot. Who am I? What am I? And then, I mean, I guess there's like, what, 3 more issues maybe? How many issues are there? 1 more issue? There's not much.
8, 9, and 10. So 8 is out. I think we're getting a 9 and 10.
Okay. But it's like, are they really, like, they keep hinting at him getting a new name, you know, a new superhero name. They've been hinting at this for like a year or 2. And it's like, at this point though, now that we know it's canceled, we've seen how it's unfolded. I'm like, are they really going to put any major anything in these last 2 issues? Like, because no one's reading this. Let's be real.
I know. I don't know.
So are they going to let anything that matters happen?
I don't know. I mean, it probably was already written before it was canceled. So that's the one thing that we might get major things, because they didn't have a chance to know it wasn't going to keep happening. So I guess there's like, to some degree, we don't know what was going to be. So there's that. But this is a comic book, and we are 7 issues in, which is a long time in comic book. A lot happens in 7 issues sometimes. And a lot did not happen in this. But okay, I do have some more positives. I just need to remember what they are. I did write them. I swear to God, I had more.
I really, sorry, was into the idea of the detective story. Like, I'm not big into Sherlock, but I watched BBC Sherlock, as we mentioned. So, like, I was here for it, but like 6 issues of that was too much. I felt overwhelmed with the references, and some of them I didn't even get. So then it felt like I was excluded from the party. And I came to the queer party, not the detective Sherlock Holmes party.
You showed up for Pride and found yourself at a murder mystery dinner, and you're like, what's happening?
It's like, God damn it, it happened again. Megan, fool me once.
Oh my God, okay. That's so fun. I'm literally imagining you in like a tutu with like streamers or whatever, walking into a murder mystery party and being like, shit.
Hey, but as much complaining.
Like, oh, but a gay murder mystery. And then
that would be amazing.
That could be fun.
Clue. So,
it's Clue. It's Clue.
All the complaining I'm doing tonight, I will be buying multiple covers of the last issue because that Pride cover is stunning.
I love it. Okay, so actual positive things. This is a me thing that I'm gonna say thank you, Megan, because I direly needed somebody to tell me what is and is not canon about Tim Drake's history. Because it's been so fucked up for so long. I appreciate that Megan gave us he is Tim Drake Wayne. Love that. That's good. It hasn't been established in so long. She told us his parents are dead. We were all wondering where the hell they were. So good to know. Don't know how they died in this version. Doesn't matter. They're dead. And we got canonical confirmation that despite their outward hate, he considers Jamie his little brother. And I was
That was cute.
Yes.
Again, make Damien pop up.
Yes.
I want a whole issue.
I loved the joke in it where he said he's been so happy that Damien held him down and put a knife to his throat and said, "Where's the real Tim?"
That was funny.
My favorite bit of the whole thing.
I would love to see Damien like razzing Tim, not about having a boyfriend, but about his boyfriend being kind of a dud.
Yes.
I think that would be very funny.
Yes. I want to see the first part where he's just like it's almost like that joke from Deadpool where it's like, I'm not teasing you about having a boyfriend, I'm teasing you about finding anyone that likes you. And then he meets Bernard and he's like, actually no, I get it, Bernard couldn't have pulled better.
That's it. Yep.
No, that Damien line, that's very Wayne family.
Yes,
and I just feel like we should have leaned into that more.
Yeah. I also thought it was really cute because I don't think this is a major part of him in canon. I think it's much more a fanon thing. You know how I love when fanon becomes canon. His like obsessive love of books, that moment where he's like, there are 4 books missing on the shelf and I know exactly which titles they were. And I was like, you little nerd, I love you.
Yeah.
Because it's been fanon for a long time that Tim Drake would like read books during school instead of doing school and like stuff like that. And I love that that's canon. Now it's cute.
Oh, that's what I used to do in school.
That makes so much sense. I didn't mean for that to sound like a diss. I actually meant that as a compliment.
No, I know. I
okay,
was like,
good.
I felt special. I was like, it's
that
me.
Fits. It is you.
Is that all of your positives?
There's a scene where all the scenes where he's interacting with the little baseball kid. I cannot remember this kid's name.
I think it's Gus.
Gus.
Yes.
His scenes with Gus are really cute. I love Robin's interacting with children is one of my favorite genres of things in comics. It's always cute. They're always adorable. All of them are good at it. Like, well, maybe not Damien, but he is a child. Doesn't count. All of the teenage Robins are always really good with children. And it's very cute. And I liked this. My favorite moment is like when he's talking, the kid Gus is talking about, I have a baseball bat to defend myself. And Tim's like, you don't need that. And he's like, okay, but I also played baseball, so I do need that. It was so funny. Cute. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the art.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah, let's talk about the art, and then let's talk about issue 7. So I feel like we'll have.
We brought it up like we brought each of these up so many times.
To start the conversation, what's the artist's name? I totally
hold on.
Thank you, Chris.
Riley.
Oh, there you go.
Rossmo. I was gonna say Ross. No, it's Rossmo.
Okay.
Yes.
So Riley,
before we say anything else, is incredible on other books.
Yes, that was what I was going to say. The Harley Quinn run that Riley did was so good. It got me really into the current Harley Quinn run because that bubbly art style paired with Harley Quinn just worked so well, and the writing took advantage of it in terms of like, you never know with Harley what's real and what's in her mind, and an exaggeration of reality. So it felt very natural on that title. Now, when it gets announced that Tim Drake Robin is going to have that art style, you hear the entire fandom like grind their teeth, like, oh, I don't know.
And then we see it, and it's so much worse than we thought it was going to be.
It just doesn't
fit
the vibe.
Why is Tim a Q-tip head running around these pages all the time? It's got this giant head and no defined features beside that.
The crimson chin. Okay, and it's like, this could work in a story where you are relying on these characteristics. I just don't think it worked here.
Everybody looks like the same person.
Yeah, it was very hard, and I don't know.
There's a part.
I'm tagging you in. What do you think?
Go ahead. Yeah, you first.
Me?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I remember telling my spouse after reading like the first couple issues, I was like, make Tim Drake cute again.
Yes.
Like,
yes. He's the hot one. I mean, they're all hot, but like, he's adorable.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I mean, it's just like, okay, he's living on a marina. That doesn't mean he like has to be getting bad haircuts.
Yes. Could you even tell what his haircut was?
I really loved, I will say I really loved a lot of the I guess you would call it styling. Like there's this one Bernard outfit that is like ripped black jeans and like a printed button shirt open with like another t-shirt underneath it. And I was like, this is cool. And this feels like cool young person hanging out at the marina style. So I did like a lot of the kind of like clothing.
Like fashion.
Yes. But I agree. Like a lot of the faces were it was hard for me to read emotion or like thought in the facial expressions, because a lot of them did look very similar. And I was struggling with Tim's hair. Oh, and the lack of feet, which I feel like is very nice. That feels very like early 90s to me.
Yeah.
So
I just found it very chaotic. And like these first 6 issues, we keep talking about how they wanted to be a detective story. I think they were trying to be more noir in some ways. And this art style is the complete opposite of that. So they just didn't mesh. And then sometimes I just found the art, I use the word chaotic, like in the action scenes, it was really hard to follow. I couldn't really tell what was happening, which way I should be reading. And then when you're in Tim's head and just blocks of text, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so overwhelmed. Like it just was a really bad match, I think.
I feel like you shouldn't have to. I mean, that sometimes happens in comics anyway, so this isn't the only one this happens in. You shouldn't have to rely on people's clothes to know who they are.
Right.
But if you do, they should wear the same outfit the whole time. So I love the outfit too, but anytime they changed, I had to be like, who is this? Oh, this is Bernard. Bernard was the worst. Bernard looked like 5 different people. I swear every issue he looked like a full different person. So literally I was waiting on Tim to call him Bernard to be sure it was him. Which really hurt the villain reveal when he's like, it's me. And I was like, oh, it's Bernard. Oh, it's Bernard.
I don't know this man.
Who is this man? I don't know this man.
I will say, I absolutely, and I've already said I appreciate this artist and their work. I absolutely hated how Bernard looked in this book. He had like the his sideburns were like hanging off, and they would like
me an out of context panel at one point. Do you remember this, TJ? And you were like, who do you think, what would you say this character is in this panel? And I was like, that's Tim talking to some girl. And you're like, no, that's Bernard. And I was like, why does Bernard have boobs?
Yes, they're drawn with very baggy clothing, and it makes them and just the way they were, like Bernard specifically, like he looked like a Karen in some, when I'm trying to like get behind this relationship and they're trying to get me on board.
He's looking like a Karen.
I can't get into it when he doesn't have personality and he looks like a Karen. It just wasn't working.
Right. You got to pick a struggle. Either have no personality or no appearance. You got to pick one. You can't do both. Oh, R.I.P. But yes, okay. The worst though, actually, is when Tim is undercover at any point, because then I fully thought he was a different person.
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe it's working.
I mean,
it's working.
Are we supposed to not know? There's one point where like Tim reveals he had been like in disguise as the cop, and I was like, really? Because you could have told me that was any cop.
Right.
It was real hard to follow. And again, this one bothered me the most. Detective Williams looks like a white guy in this. He does not look Asian, even a little bit. And I don't think it's the same kind of whitewashing that Damian usually gets. I think it's genuinely there's just not enough distinguishing features in this style of art. But that's a problem, right? Like that's problematic. If all your characters look like white guys because of your art style, change your art style.
Their eyes are drawn very specifically, every single character. So like, that's a good point.
With Damian, the whitewashing, I mean, my perspective, obviously, and we've talked about this before, is that it's very intentional. The writers are trying to get us very strongly to associate Damian with Bruce, right? So they're trying to make Damian a lookalike of a young Bruce. So I think that that's a very intentional choice. I don't condone it, obviously, but like, this is what the authors, I think, are doing.
Yes.
And I don't understand here. Yeah, I agree. Like, there's no motivation for that.
It's accidental.
So I think it is just accidental.
It's
yes,
like
it's
an
just
oversight.
Incidental. Yes,
but it's still problematic. Both things are problematic. They're just differently problematic. Yes. Also, forever praise dark-skinned Damian in Wayne Family Adventures. That's why the book is perfect. But yes, we all start ranting at the same time. Go, Lauren. You go.
Yeah, you go, Lauren.
Oh, so I was going to say that I also like had a really hard time distinguishing Bernard in a lot of situations and in a lot of cases, and then part of me is like, sometimes like, I don't know, blondness is like, that's like not all that common. So I'm like, if it's a blonde person, it's Bernard.
But then there was multiple blonde. I was gonna say there was multiple blondes, and I threw me.
That's true. Oh no, that's right. There was another blonde.
But I swear I sometimes couldn't tell which was which. So,
but in the Wayne family, right? Like it's a lot of dark haired people, and then like a lot of the other characters, are like redheaded or also brunette. So I was like, okay, if it's a blonde person, it's probably Bernard. And sometimes
Tim likes blondes. Yes. Steph and
Bernard, he does have a type. You're so
mix it up with Connor. Come on.
I didn't even think about that.
If Connor ever does frosted tips, Tim's gonna like just
my god, game over. That'll be his awakening. Well, he already had that.
His second awakening. He's like, oh wait,
that was also in the Young Justice series.
This was also bisexual. But okay, so the artist is the same art. I had to go check because I didn't believe it. It is the same artist that does Seven, and Seven is so superior art-wise.
No, Seven.
I am looking at it.
The interior art is different for number 7.
Art by Riley Rosimo.
Oh, maybe we said the wrong name then? Because I know number 7's definitely a different artist.
Let me go back and check. Maybe I clicked on 6. Now we're fact checking this moment.
Serge Acuna.
Oh shit! It is a different person. Well, I take back my compliment.
Okay.
Okay. So, I will say the Acuna does amazing art in this 7th issue. It is stunning. Tim is hot. Bernard is gorgeous. I was like, yes, please, more of that. There's so many gorgeous moments. There's so much emotion on their faces. I was screaming every panel. I was like, we could have had this. We could have had this.
It's almost kind of manga-ish.
It is,
like, inspired.
And it works so well for this. There's a lot of beautiful lighting, like when they're looking at each other, and there's lots of sunsets. There's just like they glow. It's so gorgeous. I loved every second of it, and the fire in it is so pretty. It's just a gorgeous issue.
Yeah, I think too. I was, going back to the marina. I sort of love the idea of very chaotic artwork for a marina setting. If we're thinking about thinking like cinematically, like for set design, right? We want there to be like garbage and unidentified boxes and objects and things to look a little bit worn and things to look a little bit tired. And I think there is a way to do that though that could still contrast like the natural beauty of living in a place like that, right? Where like sunrises and or sunsets, depending on what side of whatever we're on, could be rendered really, beautifully and richly. And I think we got a lot of the former as TJ mentioned, this kind of like chaotic sense of art, right? There's the scene again where we're introduced to all of the Marina residents, and there's like a lot going on, and people are smoking, and there's barking dogs, and there's people, you know, consuming different kinds of food and beverages, and it is chaotic. But I think that certainly works and fits in this, you know, this queerina, as we have termed it. It was such a great neologism. Well done. But I would love to have seen that contrasted with some of the kind of just like beauty, I guess, and that we see in issue 7 in terms of colors and more clear contrast.
Yeah. If we're talking about like Marina as Tim's mental state, right? Metaphor, because it kind of is. It would be really interesting for it to start chaotic and to progressively get beautiful. Right? Like, if we have that chaos right away, when Tim is still going, who am I? What am I? And each step of the way where he figures more out, there's more beautiful moments, then suddenly that metaphor is not just subtle. It's beautiful. It's like moving and showing how he changes, how he falls in love. And then when we hit 7, it's not this jarring switch. It's more like, oh, he's alive now. It's, you know, it's in like Ted Lasso is another show I'm watching right now. It's Roy Kent wearing color again because he's come out of himself. Like that's metaphor. And that
he came out
of himself.
Not yet.
He will come out one of these days. We can will it.
No, I love that idea, and I think that would have been a lot more thought behind not the artist, but just whoever is in charge of like pairing these people up behind the scenes. This, to me, I just can't, this sounds, again, it sounds so mean, but I can't see anyone in their right mind being like, oh, you want to do a Tim Drake book? You've gotta have this artist for that book because it fits that vibe. It just doesn't track for me. So it almost feels like they were like, all right, here's your placeholder artist for 6 issues until the one we really want becomes available for issue 7. And it's like, I feel like they should have been swapped and we had 6 issues with the other artist and then a one shot with this art style. And we could have utilized that art, like you're saying, like that issue hypothetically we were talking about earlier of like through the perspective of the Marina and showing that chaotic lifestyle. Like would have been a great one shot with that art. But I don't know.
I really liked Belen Ortega's art too on the previous
I agree.
story. So I was really surprised to see that was not the pairing for the Tim Drake Robin series.
She got an upgrade. She was on the Catwoman stuff. She's too good. That's what happened. Is that she got promoted.
Poor Tim.
But but if you're looking at that,
good for her, but also sad.
But
for
also,
Tim.
yes, good
sad
for her.
Us.
But it's like if you're looking at that art style, why would you pick something so radically different for something that was working? It just doesn't track. It's something weird went on. It feels like
it was strange.
But issue 7.
I was gonna say we've naturally progressed here. Oh my god. Yeah. Issue 7 is like a totally different book. This is and it's a good book that I want to be in forever.
I agree. Chris kind of fell off month to month. I was like, once I read issue 7, everyone on Twitter was like, it's amazing. Oh my God. And I was like, I don't know. Like, is it though? And I was like, oh my God, hype is real. I loved it. It's one of my favorite issues of all time now. I'm going to reread it so many times. I was like, Chris, just skip to it. Just skip everything else. Just read this issue.
So good. Yeah. It's a good standalone. I mean, genuinely, if you're listening and you didn't read the series, just pick up 7. Really, just treat yourself.
Yeah. Or you fell off and want to dip your toe in.
But also like content warning for super, super shitty parental behavior.
For real.
Yes.
But at the same time, okay, this is a bad thing that is actually a good thing because it does provide much needed depth to Bernard's character from a developmental perspective, from a personality perspective, like who Bernard has become and how he has become that person since him and Tim were childhood friends, right? Like there's so much there that I, would love to see mined further. And it doesn't seem like we're going to have much of an opportunity for that, at least not in the immediate. It's something that certainly can be circled back to because we know how comics work.
Yes.
But that certainly was there. And I think it gave me at least something to really grip onto with this character.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I think this whole issue, I mean, obviously being in Bernard's perspective is what did that. I think this whole issue, I was like, oh my God, this is who you are, like the whole time. And I really liked him. Like it wasn't even like, this is who you are, but okay, like whatever. Like I was like, oh, I would have loved to have this character the whole time be something I was aware of.
Even if this issue wasn't in Bernard's perspective, like when I heard it was going to be in Bernard's perspective, I was like, oh no. Like I just didn't trust it, you know? I was like, he already had his shot. He did redeem himself a little bit. But even if this issue hadn't been in his perspective, just the art style alone would have made me find him so much more endearing. And I feel bad saying, yeah, exactly.
No. I think that's what I mean. First of all, there's the shallow part of it, which I think we can all agree to. He's very hot in this.
He's very cute.
He's very hot in that, and that helps. But there is a lot. You see, he looks sad. Like the absolute adoration for Tim in his face at times. There's a lot more going on with Bernard in this art than there ever has been before. Absolutely. Yeah. And getting his shitty parents and seeing like how he reacts to it. And then I think especially the whole time realizing that he knows that Tim is Robin. Like it's hinted at pretty hard right away and then eventually revealed. But just him, like, because he kind of reads like an idiot early on in the story to not have figured it out when Tim like literally disappears and Robin shows immediately up, like he's not even subtle. But in this one, when he's like running to the bathroom and then Robin runs, like he's doing a full like comedy of errors routine of going backward and forward between his date and being Robin. I was like, there's no way he doesn't know. And then he's just like, oh, that's my derpy boyfriend. And I was like, oh, he does know.
I did have the sense in the first 6 issues that he knew. There was like a moment where Bernard says, oh, Robin, my boyfriend has a houseboat here. You could, and I'm like, okay.
It was like, how could he not?
He knows what he's doing and is like respecting.
Oh, yes. And
him waiting to tell. Like, so I sort of felt like maybe Bernard knew, but it also, you know, it wasn't explicit. And you know, it would have been easy to be walked back and for my reading of it to turn out to be wrong. And it turned out to be right in issue 7, but it was a little late, I think, for that to
we talked earlier about things being textual and metaphor, and I felt like in this issue what worked so well for me is like I mentioned that scene at the end where they're talking very casually and openly and naturally. And they're like, I think it's Bernard who says, oh, like, I always thought maybe you were. Am I wrong? Is he the one saying that?
No, he does. He says, Tim actually says, I thought you were. And then Bernard goes, and I knew you were.
Yes.
I think Tim says, I thought you were straight. And Bernard says,
that's right. You're
I knew you weren't.
Yeah, because Tim was like oblivious about everything.
Yeah.
Bernard says, I always kind of knew you were. I mean, you know, so in a way,
that's right.
We're getting that repeated in that he is waiting once again for Tim to tell him who he is, and he already knows.
Oh my God, that's the galaxy brain moment. You're so right.
Yes. And I'm like, it's so good because we're getting this metaphor, but it's also textual, and we're having a layered conversation. And I feel like this was something we were missing.
Yeah, I agree.
Beforehand, but it's done so well here.
Yeah, it is. This is also just like episodic villain of the week, which was so fun. And again, I think what we were kind of logging for early on. I love Firefly. What's his name?
Firefly.
I do really love this character when he shows up. He's such a dork, and him just like he's just burning down the restaurants because they won't let him in, and like Tim just fully roasts him for it. It's like exquisite. This is the Tim I love.
No,
just
this
being
was
like maybe if you dressed up better, you would get let in. I was like, damn, Tim.
This was like near perfect issue. It was just such a breath of fresh air, not just the art, but the writing too. And like, better. I don't know, it just felt so much more complicated and real. Like this was the first scene at the end where they felt like a real couple, and there was actual feelings, and like, you know, them going on the first not date at the, you know, when they first met and we first got reintroduced to Bernard. That was kind of cute. And then him asking him out, you know, that gave us butterflies. We loved it. And then since then, I feel like we didn't get that until this issue. And like, they're just so sweet.
And oh my God, Bernard telling Tim that he was his gay awakening.
Yes. That's what I mean. Like,
he gives him a B. necklace. I was like, that's so cute. It's so cute. I love it.
Stands for
much.
Bitch. Bernard's bitch.
Facts.
No, that was so
sweet. I'm just saying, Bernard is in the cult of pain. You know he's into some dom sub stuff.
That stands for BDSM.
He's like, once we get past hand holding, I'm going to introduce you to what I actually am into.
Oh yeah, cliffhanger of issue 10 is going to be, oh, sorry, I'm still in the torture cult.
He gifts Tim a collar in the last one.
I love just the experimentation Meghan did in this issue with not just the different perspectives. Like, I feel like doing it from Bernard's perspective at this point was a little risky because the fact that she hadn't done it yet just made it, the stakes were much higher, I think. But just the use of what would you call it? Like the meal titles, like
the framing device of the different stages of a meal, because apparently Bernard is studying to be a chef but also majoring in physics and biology, and I want to be like, oh babe, you don't have to do that. I mean, I guess you can, but
yeah, that was really effective.
Yeah,
that was cute.
Oh my god, it was cute.
It was very cute.
I love learning that Bernard likes to cook. What's news to me? Definitely didn't know that before. I was
lots of rom-com potential there.
Oh god, are you kidding? Food competition rom-coms, like, oh my god. They have to do something for like a Wayne gala where they cook against other celebrities. Like,
oh man, what if Bernard's like one of the like waiters at one of the Wayne galas?
Yes.
Oh,
that's sexy.
I guess my last note about this issue, but I have all positive things to say about this issue.
No,
but my question is like
at
the end when Bernard's mother sends the text and is like, hey, you should come home, does it not look like she's in like some torture prison?
Yeah, what the fuck is that house?
I know it's supposed to be
dog kennels to me.
I know it's supposed to be the Dowd house, like it's their house. That's how it's labeled.
Like, I guess are they rich? Maybe,
but they are rich. But what is that? Those doors are like wooden paneled. Like, it
was weird.
Are they? Are they at the cult of pain?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it felt like it was supposed to be this happy moment of like, oh, like but
you're like, why are you in Arkham? What's going on?
Yes, and I can't tell if it was just accidentally. That's just how the background was drawn.
No, if you go back and look at those doors, they are explicitly like almost jail door looking things.
Yeah, so it's like they're going into the murder basement
with like no windows, no decor.
Yeah.
It's like, their sex dungeon, actually.
Yeah. So I'm like, they're asking Bernard to come home, and it's like, I don't know, Bernard. I don't know if you should go
it's home. A good get out, Bernard, get out. Oh god.
So, if we don't get a follow-up to that by the end of these 10 issues, I'm gonna be real disappointed.
If we don't get a follow-up, we're all just gonna declare it to have been a sex dungeon. That's like
I'm just gonna pretend it was a mistake. But they did not intend for it to look like a sex dungeon.
I'm going to pretend it was accurate.
Maybe that's just Bernard's room. We know he's kinky, and she was like longingly
she's walking down into his dungeon.
I'm thinking of you. I'm in your sex dungeon. Please come home.
That's too Freudian for me. I can't handle it.
Please come home. Well, do we have any final thoughts on these 7 issues?
I think the three of us have written truly exquisite versions of this story in our conversation tonight.
Yeah. No, I think there was a lot of potential, and issue 7 gave me everything I wanted. It was just too little too late, unfortunately.
I will say, as like maybe a little teaser of what little we are going to get, right? Like I think that issue 8, we've talked about many like potential, perhaps better relationships or mentoring situations for Tim that didn't really pan out in the first 6 issues. But I personally think that a partnership between Tim Drake and Batwoman could be really, really fruitful and interesting. So again, we're only, I think, going to get 2 more issues of that. And as it stands in issue 8, the mini partnership, as it were, is not like necessarily off to a great start. But I like the idea of this perhaps becoming a more important part of Tim's life. So I thought that could be compelling, although then I learned that we weren't going to be getting all that much more of it, which undercuts my enthusiasm for that relationship and for that friendship / mentorship potential a little bit.
Yeah, I and it's interesting. I love that the two gays are teaming up. But it's especially interesting to me because before he had come out, they had one of my favorite series where they are partnered up in the James Tynion detective comics. They're like literally partnered up in that too. So I kind of love that kind of repeat of their partnership now that he has a better understanding of himself, but I'm excited. I hope it's good things for it.
Well, we keep mentioning Layne Family Adventures. They had that 2-part over there where he's asking for relationship advice, and
he goes to his queer auntie Batwoman, and I love it so much. It's really you've got to read Layne Family. You would love it.
I do. Well, maybe now that my school year is over and I'm on summer break,
it's a great summer read.
There will be more time for fun things. Hopefully, that's the idea, at least.
Right.
You can come talk to us more often now, is what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Oh, I would love that. This has been
We are Robin. Got to do that at some point. That'd be fun.
Oh, we should do We Are Robin.
I do have that next to your name in my master spreadsheet. Somehow I just knew you would love it, I guess. But that is the future. And right now, I will ask you both, what would you rate this book, issues 1 to 7? If you were rating this between 1 to 5 batarangs, what would you rate it? And feel free to break one of those batarangs in half.
Okay. 1 through 6, 3 feels generous.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give it a 3 for the things I liked. 7 is a full 5.
Yeah. So like 4 overall?
Nope. I'm not doing it.
Okay, we're rating them differently. Okay.
Because this does not deserve a 4. I'm sorry. It doesn't. It's a 3 out of 5. It's probably a 2.5 out of 5. Let's be honest. I was being real generous with 3.
Mm-hmm. I was also leaning 2.5, especially for issues 1 through 6.
Yeah.
Specifically, I want to give it more for the potential, right? And for the things, for the conversation that it's given us, for the ideas that it has kind of like lodged in my brain and in our collective minds. But at the same time, like so much of that wasn't actually there.
Yeah. Maybe the real rating was the friends we made along the way.
I'm thinking of that meme where it's like the really bad gold star. It's like, you tried.
You tried. That's right.
Yes. But I agree. 5 for issue 7.
Tried. Yes.
5 batarangs for issue 7.
2.5.
Delightful. No notes. It's just really fun. And hoping the last couple of issues will give us more of that energy than first 6 issues energy.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I think the art, at least in issue 8, is a step up from 6.
Is it
not as good
Riley?
As 7? No, it's someone different, but so it's like in between. Like it's not as like stellar as 7, I think, but nowhere near the level of 1 to 6.
Yeah.
But I agree. I'm on the same page as you guys. Like 2.5 is probably more realistic for issues 1 to 6. 3 is generous. If if I'm on Goodreads and I gotta pick one, I guess I do 3.
Yeah, I would round up if I was on Goodreads because someone might see it. That's the only reason. It's a 2.5 in reality.
But issue 7, 5 stars. Amazing issue.
We have never
everything I wanted.
Everyone on the show agreed on a rating before. I don't think that's wild.
Pretty rare.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
Yeah.
Tim Drake, Robin, a great equalizer. We're all on the same page.
This is the real accomplishment here. Well, Lauren, would you like to tell our listeners where to find you online and any projects you would like to mention?
Sure. Well, I actually, we're recording like 2 days late. I just presented at a conference here in Chicago a couple of days ago, which was really lovely. The DePaul Pop Culture Conference. I guess I'll put in a plug for next year's. It's always great. There's a different theme every year. A couple years ago, they did superheroes. They did Sherlock Holmes recently. This year's theme was time travel in popular culture. And it was really, really fun. So definitely would recommend folks looking into that in the future. You can find me online. I am on Twitter. I will warn you, it is a BTS Stan account, but I do occasionally, thank you. I do occasionally tweet about other things. I'm at LROcon15. And that is all. I think I don't have any more upcoming conferences planned. I am working this summer as well on a paper I'm hoping to submit for publication about fantasy in Wolfman and Perez's New Teen Titans, adolescent fantasy, and kind of what that looked like in 1980s comics culture. So hopefully keep an eye out for that, maybe in the next year or so.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You gotta plug your book.
And yes, of course, as many
on.
listeners probably already know, I do have a book out with Rutgers University Press entitled Robin and the Making of American Adolescence, in which I talk a lot about Robin as sort of an avatar or an avenue for us to understand the history of the American teenager. And Tim Drake gets regrettably short shrift in this book, I will say. I wish that I had waited a couple of years to publish it, because there would be a lot more to say about Tim Drake.
I know. It came out like a couple months before.
Right? Perhaps a revised edition someday. Who knows? But yeah, so you can find that anywhere that you shop for books. Barnes
and it's
Noble,
delightful, so you should.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
I will say I started reading that Teen Titans run because of you.
Oh, it's so great. There's so much going on.
There's a lot going on. I didn't get very far because you have to be in the right mood for it. But I really appreciate it though. And I was like, oh, I see why this is like a classic.
Yeah. You can read the 80s cocaine on the page. Like there's a lot happening here.
Someone did several lines.
Lauren mentioned BTS. I just wanted to say, I don't know if we said this before on the show, but we went to a BTS concert. We went to the same BTS concert.
We did.
We just did not go together. But we were texting the entire time.
That's so funny.
It's true. Yes.
Yeah. So close yet so far.
Yes, I know. And both of us had like flown. It was in a separate city.
Yeah.
I mean, and
that's hilarious.
You're like, we got to meet up, and then it was just so packed that.
Oh my gosh! Yes. Amidst the 60,000 people in attendance, it was. It was
crazy.
A lot. Yes.
Yeah. Fair. But anyway, I thought that was funny, so I had to share that tidbit.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, Lauren, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
I agree. I cannot thank you enough for having me. I always cherish our conversations. I feel like you all are so funny and so insightful. And it feels really, really good to just kind of be part of this. So yeah.
Thanks so much. It's always such a blast when you're on. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Please.
All of that same back to you, like 100%.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And with that, listeners, see you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gotham Outsiders. You can find me, Chris, at Linktree/The Myth of Psyche, where you can find all of my social media, where I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and all the various places. You can also find all of my other projects where I'm writing and the other podcasts I host, including Thirsty on Tune, which I host with my friend Bronwyn, where we talk about independent projects like books and webtoons, and on the Talking Comics podcast, where I am also a host now. And where can they find you, TJ?
You can find me at TroyFin2 on most social media platforms like Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, a lot. You can find me talking a lot about books, gay things, gay books, and I am a librarian in my professional time and for fun sometimes. So please hit me up if you want a good book recommendation or you have one for me.
And where can our listeners find you, Mark?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at I am El Diablito, and also on Sunday evenings with the Broaxium crew. Show is called Shooting the Poodoo. We are on at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. EST.
And you can find us all on social media at Gotham Outsiders on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. So thank you for listening, and join us next time. Same bat time, same bat place.